So I want you to imagine, just for a moment, that you have a personal assistant.
Okay, I'm listening.
And this isn't just, any assistant. They are perfectly dedicated, like completely tireless. They unquestioningly bring you exactly what you ask for. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
I mean, that sounds incredible, right?
Right. But there is a massive, massive catch. This assistant, they don't actually listen to the words you say out loud.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, they don't care about your vision board. They don't care about your 5-year plan. And they definitely don't care about what you tell your friends at brunch. They only listen to your deepest, quietest, most ingrained beliefs about yourself.
So they're basically constantly eavesdropping on your subconscious, just taking notes on the quietest whispers in your mind.
Exactly. So if you say out loud, I'm nailed this presentation, but your deep, secret belief is that you don't actually deserve success. Your assistant goes, got it, they want to fail. And so they quietly sabotage your alarm clock, or, they make sure you spill coffee on your shirt, or they just scramble your words when you get up to the podium.
Right, because if you deeply believe nobody loves you, this assistant actively and visibly pushes people away. They are just following orders.
Your orders?
Yeah, your orders. And I mean, it completely strips away the illusion that our external circumstances are just, a series of random, unconnected accidents. It forces us to look at the invisible architecture of our own lives.
And that invisible architecture is exactly what we are dismantling today. Welcome to The Deep Dive. I'm your host, and today we are pulling from excerpts of a truly foundational text in the personal development and self-love space.
It's a really seminal piece of work.
Yeah, it's a book called You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. Now, whether you are, intimately familiar with this world, or you're just sort of dipping your toes into the concepts of mindset and manifestation, this material is essentially the bedrock. I'm thrilled to be here with our resident expert to break this all down.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited for this. The mission for our deep dive today is to really deconstruct the mechanics of self-belief as Hay presents them.
Right.
We are going to explore how our subconscious programming dictates our daily reality. We'll identify what she calls the big four toxic emotions that act as these massive roadblocks in our lives.
The big four.
Yeah. And perhaps most provocatively, we're going to unpack the radical claim that the root of literally every problem you have is simply a lack of self-love.
See, everything.
Yeah.
Like every single problem. I have to be honest, it sounds almost, dangerously simple.
I know, it really does.
Because when you're dealing with, complex human suffering, boiling it all down to you just don't love yourself enough feels like it's missing the reality of how hard life can actually be.
And that skepticism is exactly why we need to look at this closely. We need to ground this conversation right from the start. Some of the claims in this text are incredibly bold.
Extremely bold.
Especially regarding the mind-body connection. So our goal here isn't to just accept everything as literal, peer-reviewed medical science, which, by the way, we will absolutely dissect later, but rather to explore the profound psychological framework it presents.
We are looking at the power of narrative.
Exactly. We are analyzing how the stories we tell ourselves literally manifest as our lived reality.
We're exploring the philosophy of the mind. And the absolute core philosophy of this text, like the foundation everything else is built on, is this premise.
What? Yeah.
What we give out, we get back.
Right. The universe as a mirror.
Yeah. The author states that the universe totally supports us in every single thought we choose to think and believe. It's described as a completely non-judgmental mirror.
Which is hard for people to grasp because we often we anthropomorphize the universal reality as this parental figure.
Oh, totally. Like a cosmic referee.
Yes. We imagine this cosmic referee who is rewarding us for being good, moral people or, punishing us for being bad. But Hay's framework removes all of that.
It just takes the judgment completely out of it.
Entirely. The subconscious mind, and by extension the universal power it connects to, is completely impartial. It has no moral compass regarding your thoughts. It doesn't look at you and say, oh, that's a terribly sad thought. Let's protect them and not make that happen.
Wait, but human nature is built on morality and judgment. Like, we categorize everything as good or bad, safe or dangerous.
We do, yeah.
So it's incredibly hard to accept that the forces governing reality don't care about, good or bad people.
Yeah.
How does the text justify a universe that just blindly says yes to our own self-destruction?
Well, because the text views the subconscious not as a judge, but as an engine.
An engine, okay.
Right, and an engine doesn't care if you steer the car toward a beautiful scenic highway or like straight off a cliff. It just provides the power to the wheels based on where you point it.
That makes a lot of sense.
So if you declare, life is lonely and nobody loves me, the universe doesn't try to comfort you. It just says, okay, that is your declared reality, and it aligns your perception and circumstances to match that declaration. It shifts the locus of control entirely inward. There is no external punishing force. There is only your output and the universe's matching return.
You know, that makes me think of reality as a highly aggressive social media algorithm.
Oh, that's a perfect way to look at it.
Because the algorithm on your phone, it does not care if the videos you watch make you feel joyful and inspired, or if they make you feel anxious, miserable, and angry. It has zero preference for your mental health.
It just wants engagement.
Exactly. It just registers engagement. It says, oh, you lingered on this video about failure for 5 seconds. You must want more failure. And suddenly your entire feed is saturated with content about failure.
Right.
So if you constantly click on I'm an imposter, content in your own brain, your reality feed just serves you up more imposter experiences.
That analogy perfectly describes how cognitive bias works neurologically, actually. We can take this out of the realm of philosophy and look straight at the biology of the brain.
Let's do it.
Specifically, the reticular activating system, or the RAS.
Okay, break down the RAS for us. How does the biology mirror this philosophical concept?
So the RAS is a bundle of nerves at our brainstem. And at any given second, millions of bits of sensory data are hitting your brain. Sights, sounds, smells, body language, background noise.
It's overwhelming.
If you consciously processed all of it, your brain would literally short circuit. You couldn't function. So the RAS acts as a bouncer at an exclusive club.
Okay, I love this. A bouncer.
Yeah, it stands at the velvet rope of your conscious mind and decides what information gets to come inside and what stays out.
And how does the bouncer know who to let in? Like, what's the criteria?
The bouncer only checks the VIP list you gave it, and that VIP list is your established belief system.
Oh, wow.
So if your core belief is people are generally untrustworthy, your RAS bouncer will block out the 99 instances of people being kind or neutral to you today, because that doesn't match the list.
They don't get past the velvet rope?
Nope. But the one person who cuts you off in traffic, the bouncer lets that right in. Ah, here is the proof you ordered that people are terrible.
That is wild.
It is. So I would ask you, the listener, right now, what is the algorithm of your mind currently serving you? Look at your life. Look at the recurring patterns. What VIP list are you inadvertently handing the bouncer in your subconscious?
What feed are you living in?
Yeah.
That is a heavy question. But it also leads us to the next logical step in the source material.
Which is where the list came from.
Exactly. If the universe, or our biological bouncer, is just reflecting our beliefs, and we are suffering because of those beliefs,
Right.
Where did we get them in the first place?
Right.
Because nobody is born thinking they're fundamentally unlovable. A baby doesn't come out of the womb thinking, you know, I'm probably going to be terrible at public speaking, and I definitely don't deserve financial stability.
No, of course not. The text points directly to childhood for those origins. We are born as blank slates. We are essentially perfect hardware without an operating system installed yet.
We have to download it from somewhere.
Exactly. We learn our belief systems, our software, as little children. And we don't learn it by what we are explicitly told, which is key. We learn it by observing the reactions of the adults around us.
We learn how to feel about ourselves by watching how they feel about us, and crucially, how they feel about themselves.
Yes. The text is unambiguous here. If you lived with people who were unhappy, frightened, guilty, or angry, you inevitably learned negative concepts about yourself and about your place in the world.
You just absorb it.
You absorbed their energetic frequency and their coping mechanisms as your baseline reality. A child doesn't have the cognitive development to look at an angry parent and think, wow, dad is really stressed about the mortgage.
Right. They can't rationalize it. Like
Yeah,
that.
a child thinks, dad is angry, therefore I must be bad.
I follow the logic. I really do.
Yeah.
But this feels like a very dangerous trap.
How so?
Well, if we establish that we are just playing out the faulty scripts our parents or caregivers handed us, isn't it incredibly easy to just fall into permanent victimhood? Like, my mom was anxious, so now I'm anxious, and I can't have a good relationship. Thanks, Mom. It feels like handing the listener an excuse to blame their childhood for everything wrong in their adult life.
That is such a common reaction, and the author actually anticipates that exact pitfall. The text explicitly counters this tendency to blame, because blame is a dead end.
It doesn't get you anywhere.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It introduces a concept that requires a massive shift in perspective. Our parents were victims of victims.
Victims of victims. That's a powerful phrase.
It's a phrase that demands radical compassion. It forces us to recognize that our parents could not possibly teach us anything they didn't know themselves.
Right.
If a parent, due to their own brutal childhood programming, had absolutely no idea how to love themselves, it was physically and psychologically impossible for them to teach you how to love yourself. You cannot pour from an empty cup, and you cannot teach a language you don't speak.
But dropping that blame is incredibly difficult. I mean, when someone has experienced real neglect or abuse, telling them not to blame their parents can feel, I don't know, invalidating. It feels like letting them off the hook.
And that is a vital distinction to make. The text asks us to do something extraordinarily difficult, but it's not asking us to be doormats. Dropping blame doesn't mean dropping accountability.
Okay, that's important.
It doesn't mean what happened was okay. It means recognizing that you cannot extract a healthy dynamic from a broken machine. If you try to heal by pointing fingers backwards, demanding an apology or a fix from someone who is fundamentally broken, you remain tethered to the past.
You are waiting for someone else to rewrite your code.
Exactly. Viewing our parents not as these all-powerful, malicious architects of our misery, but rather as grown-up, terrified children who were just doing their absolute best with incredibly faulty programming they inherited from their parents, it breaks the cycle.
It really reframes it.
As long as you blame them, you are handing them your power. When you drop the blame, you realize you are the only one who can write the new code.
And holding on to that blame doesn't just keep you stuck mentally. According to this text, it creates massive, tangible blockages in your life and your body.
Yes, physical blockages.
Right. If resentment is the poison destroying our physical house, what caused us to drink the poison in the first place? The author identifies 4 specific emotions that act as the biggest roadblocks to a healthy reality. She calls them the Big 4.
Resentment, criticism, guilt, and fear.
The 4 horsemen of the subconscious apocalypse. The text argues that these 4 emotions come entirely from blaming others and refusing to take responsibility for our own experiences.
And this is where the source material makes its most controversial, incredibly bold claims.
Let's get into it.
The author states that all disease comes from a state of unforgiveness. She specifically mentions that long-held resentment can literally eat away at the body, and she draws a direct line between chronic resentment and severe conditions like cancer.
Okay, we absolutely have to pause here, because claiming that unforgiveness causes disease or that resentment causes cancer is a massive statement.
It is.
For anyone listening right now who is dealing with a severe illness or who has lost someone they love to a disease, hearing that can feel like a violent form of victim blaming.
Well, absolutely. It can feel terrible.
It sounds like, oh, you got sick because you just didn't forgive people enough. It implies a moral failing on the part of the sick person.
Yeah.
So I want to be crystal clear to you listening. We are exploring the author's philosophical and spiritual framework here.
Yes.
We are analyzing her perspective on the mind-body connection. We are not endorsing a medical diagnosis, and we are certainly not replacing oncology or immunology. We are strictly reporting on what the source material claims.
That framing is essential. If we take her words as literal, one-to-one medical etiology, meaning event A directly caused disease B, it can be deeply harmful. However, we shouldn't throw out the underlying philosophy just because the language is absolute.
So how do we look at it constructively?
If we look at her core philosophical claim through the modern scientific lens of psychoneuroimmunology, the profound wisdom of her point actually becomes clear.
Psychoneuroimmunology, that is a mouthful. But it's the study of how the mind, the nervous system, and the immune system interact, right?
Exactly. Walk us through the actual biological mechanisms here. How does a thought become a physical vulnerability?
Right. How does it actually work in the body?
Let's look at the biology of chronic stress. When you hold on to deep resentment, persistent fear, or profound guilt, you aren't just having an abstract philosophical experience, you are having a physiological event.
Well, your body is reacting.
Yes. Every time you ruminate on that resentment, your brain signals the HPA axis. That's the hypothalamus, pituitary, and adrenal glands. Your body literally cannot tell the difference between a physical threat, like a tiger chasing you, and an emotional threat, like the memory of someone who betrayed you.
Wait, really? So your body reacts to the memory of your ex-partner exactly the same way it reacts to a predator in the wild?
Yes. It initiates the sympathetic nervous system's fight or flight response. It continuously floods your system with cortisol and adrenaline.
And I'm assuming that's bad long-term.
Well, in short bursts, cortisol is life-saving. It gives you the energy to run from the tiger. But when you hold on to resentment for years, you are bathing your cells in a constant low-grade flood of cortisol.
And what does that do to the body over time?
It genuinely breaks down physical resilience. Chronic cortisol suppresses the production of lymphocytes, which are the white blood cells that make up your immune system's frontline defense.
It disarms your immune system.
Completely. It causes widespread systemic inflammation, which is now recognized as a precursor to almost every major chronic disease. It disrupts your cellular repair processes.
So even though she didn't have the biological terms for it, she was sensing something real.
Exactly. So while medical science doesn't draw a direct mystical line saying hating your boss caused this specific tumor, the underlying premise of the text is scientifically validated. Chronic, toxic emotional states degrade the physical body's ability to protect and heal itself.
It's the physical toll of carrying heavy emotional baggage.
Yeah.
You are literally wearing down your own armor from the inside.
You really are.
And the text offers a very specific antidote to this toxic state forgiveness. But it frames forgiveness in a way that is incredibly pragmatic. It's not about letting the other person off the hook.
Not at all. The text frames forgiveness as an act of ultimate self-preservation. You don't forgive the other person for their sake. You forgive them to turn off the cortisol drip in your own brain.
Wow, that is a great way to put it, turning off the drip.
You forgive them to release yourself from the physical and emotional prison of the past. There is an old saying that resentment is like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die.
Right.
The author is simply telling you to put the poison down so your own body can repair itself.
Put the poison down. Okay, so we have these big four toxic emotions: resentment, criticism, guilt, fear. But the text suggests that even these, as destructive as they are just symptoms.
Right. They are the smoke, not the fire.
Exactly. They are the fever, not the infection. The author transitions into this exploration of what is the true problem. And it turns out it's remarkably singular.
She asserts that no matter what the surface issue appears to be, whether a person is facing financial ruin, dealing with a string of abusive relationships, or suffering from chronic physical ailments, the underlying true root problem is almost always the same core belief.
And what is that belief?
I am not good enough.
I am not good enough, paired with a profound lack of self-love.
Yes. The text provides a vivid, illustrative example of a specific client she worked with. This was a woman who was constantly plagued by problems. Her relationships were messy, her career was stalled, but her dominant trait was that she constantly, relentlessly criticized herself.
Just a harsh inner voice.
Extremely harsh. She felt she did everything wrong. And when they explored her history, it perfectly mirrored the environment she grew up in. She had hypercritical parents who demanded perfection and offered no warmth.
That's devastating.
And as an adult, she wasn't living with them anymore, but she had entirely internalized their voices. She had become her own parent. She was treating herself day in and day out exactly as they had treated her when she was a vulnerable child.
That is heartbreaking. It's like she became her own abuser.
She did.
It makes me think about a house with a severely cracked foundation. Let's say you buy this beautiful house, and a few weeks in, you notice a huge, ugly crack in the drywall in the living room.
Okay, I see where you're going.
So you go to the hardware store, you buy spackle, you sand it down, you put up some expensive, beautiful wallpaper. That's the equivalent of hustling for a promotion or trying to make more money to feel secure. You're trying to fix the surface level symptom.
You're painting the walls to ignore the structural issue.
Exactly. But a month later, the wallpaper tears because the wall shifted again. So you say, okay, maybe the problem isn't the living room. Maybe the problem is the kitchen. You get the kitchen, put in brand new marble cabinets.
Right.
It's like jumping into a brand new relationship, thinking a new partner will finally make you feel whole and fix how you feel. But give it 6 months, and the marble tiles crack.
Because the foundation is still broken.
Yes. You can keep repainting the walls, remodeling the rooms, and changing the furniture all your life, but until you dig down into the dirt and fix the foundation, which is the core belief that you are inherently worthy of love exactly as you are, The cracks will just keep showing up in every single room of your life.
That analogy captures the essence of the text perfectly. The structural integrity of your entire life depends entirely on your core self-concept.
Everything rests on it.
Everything. The author unpacks this by defining what actual self-love looks like in practice. Because in our modern culture, self-love has been commodified into, like, bubble baths, expensive skincare, and treat yourself days.
Right, the consumer version of self-care. Buying a bath bomb isn't going to fix a cracked foundation.
No, it's not. But true self-love, according to the author, is much more rigorous and radical. It begins with one absolute commitment, never criticizing ourselves for anything. Ever.
No, I have to push back on that.
I thought you might.
Never criticizing ourselves. That sounds almost irresponsible. Don't we need self-criticism to improve? Like if I mess up a major project at work, or if I lose my temper with a friend, don't I need that inner critic to hold me accountable so I don't become a terrible person?
That is the dominant cultural narrative we are all raised with. We believe that shame is a necessary tool for behavioral modification. But the text vehemently disagrees.
Why?
It argues that criticism locks us into the very pattern we are creating to change. Think about the biology we just discussed. Criticism generates that toxic guilt and shame, which floods the body with stress hormones. It reinforces the not good enough foundation.
Oh, I see. It puts you back in fight or flight.
Exactly. When you criticize yourself, you freeze. Your nervous system perceives a threat, and you go into survival mode.
And you can't grow when you're just trying to survive.
Precisely. The text argues that understanding and gentleness are what actually help us move out of negative patterns. When you are gentle with yourself, you create a safe internal environment where change is actually possible.
It's the difference between trying to motivate a child to learn math by screaming at them every time they get a subtraction problem wrong versus sitting with them patiently and encouraging them when they struggle.
That's a great comparison.
We all universally acknowledge which method produces a healthier, more capable, more resilient child. Why do we somehow think screaming at ourselves internally will produce a better adult?
Because we mistake cruelty for discipline. The inner critic is not your protector, it's your warden. And it keeps you locked in the very cell you are trying to escape.
Okay, so how do we catch ourselves when we are acting out of this not good enough programming? How do we spot the warden in our day-to-day lives?
Well, the text actually points us toward the specific vocabulary we use every single day. It targets one word in particular as a massive, glaring red flag.
Ooh, I love this part. What's the word?
The word should.
The tyranny of should.
Yes. The author calls it one of the most damaging words in our entire language. She recommends removing it from our vocabulary forever.
Which is a massive ask. We use that word constantly.
We do, but her reasoning is fascinating. Every single time you use the word should, you are implicitly stating that you are wrong, that you are failing, or that you have already failed.
It really is a heavy word.
It is a word completely steeped in guilt and retrospective shame. It pits your current, messy human reality against a fictional, idealized version of reality, and inherently tells you that you are coming up short.
I should have worked out today.
I should be further along in my career by now.
I should be a better parent. I should be making more money.
Let's walk through a real-world scenario of how this actually feels. Imagine waking up on a Saturday. You had a long week, you sleep in. Immediately, the brain says, I should be at the gym right now. I should be productive. I should have meal prepped.
Ugh, I'm exhausted just hearing that.
Right? By 10 a.m., you are exhausted, not from doing anything, but from the energetic weight of failing a completely arbitrary standard. You've ruined your rest by layering it with guilt.
So what's the fix? The text offers highly actionable advice to dismantle this, right?
It does. It suggests replacing every single should with the word could.
Could. It's one syllable, but energetically, it feels completely different.
Because could implies a choice, whereas should implies an obligation you failed to meet. Let's apply it to your Saturday scenario.
Okay, let's hear it.
I could be at the gym right now, but I am choosing to rest my body because I am exhausted. I could be further along in my career, but I made choices that prioritize my mental health or my family.
It takes you out of the role of a failing victim and puts you back in the driver's seat of your own agency.
Exactly. It implies that you are doing the best you can with the resources, the energy, and the awareness you have in this exact moment.
It acknowledges your power. And this brings us to what I consider, frankly, the most mind-bending concept in the entire source material.
The part about time.
Yes, the concept regarding time and power. The text asserts, and I'm quoting here, the point of power is always in the present moment.
Yes.
It goes on to say that it doesn't matter how long we've had a negative pattern, how long we've had an illness, or how long we've been in a toxic relationship. The past has absolutely no power over us.
This is the profound philosophical pillar that holds the rest of her theory together. She writes, "The only thing we are ever dealing with is a thought, and a thought can be changed."
Okay, I need you to really analyze this because, frankly, it sounds incredibly liberating, but also incredibly dismissive.
I could see why you'd say that.
I mean, the past literally happened. The trauma happened. It's wired into the nervous system. The bankruptcy happened. How can anyone say the past has no power?
Let's delve into why this reframing is so deeply empowering and how it actually aligns with cognitive behavioral therapy. Human beings naturally view the past as an inescapable anchor.
We really do.
We view our history as this massive, heavy iron chain attached to our ankles, dragging behind us, determining how fast and how far we can walk today. But chronologically and physically, the past does not exist. It is not a physical place you can visit. It is not an object you can touch.
Right. You can't put the past in a box. It's gone.
The past exists exclusively as a neural pathway firing in your brain right now. It is a memory. It is a thought occurring in the present tense.
Oh, wow. I never thought about it like that.
Your body is reacting to a thought you are having today about an event that is gone. By reducing your entire history of pain, trauma, and bad programming down to just a thought that you are actively thinking in this exact second, it entirely demystifies your trauma.
It takes the power away from the immutable historical event, which you obviously can't change, and puts the power into your current cognitive process, which you can.
Exactly. It makes change highly accessible.
Yeah.
You aren't fighting 30 years of history. You aren't battling a ghost from 1995. You are just choosing to engage or not engage with a specific thought in this exact present second.
That is huge.
If you believe your past controls you, you are powerless. If you recognize that your current thought about your past is what's controlling you, you regain complete authority. And if you have the power to think a thought, you have the power to change it.
So what does this all mean in practice? Like, if we have the power to change our thoughts right now, if we're just dealing with software code and VIP bouncer lists, how do we actually execute that change?
Right, the practical application.
Because we all know it's not as easy as just flipping a light switch. You don't just say, I think I'll be happy now, and decades of trauma vanish into thin air.
No, it takes work.
The text gives us a working model for this, comparing the subconscious mind to a computer.
Yes, it uses the classic computing principle, garbage in, garbage out.
Right. If you input the data, everyone is out to get me, the computer, your subconscious, will process that data and print out a reality, a lived experience that validates that exact belief.
The text highlights another client example to illustrate this loop. She worked with a woman who genuinely, fundamentally believed that everyone was out to get her. That was her core programming, her foundational code.
And what happened?
Well, as a result, she constantly manifested situations where people were unhelpful, rude, or outright hostile toward her.
Let's unpack the mechanics of that, because on the surface, that sounds like magic. How does her internal belief force someone else to be rude to her at a coffee shop?
It's not magic at all. It's a combination of behavioral psychology and the RAS algorithm we discussed earlier.
Okay, the bouncer is back.
The bouncer is back. First, her brain is actively scanning the environment for hostility. So she notices a slight, tired frown on a cashier's face that someone else would ignore entirely, and her brain interprets it as a targeted personal attack. That's the bouncer letting the hostility in.
Making sure the VIP list is honored.
Exactly. Second, and more importantly, our core beliefs dictate our micro-behaviors.
Our body language, our tone.
Exactly. If you walk into a room fundamentally believing people are hostile and untrustworthy, your body language is defensive before you even speak. You avoid eye contact, your tone is clipped and defensive, your jaw is tight, your arms are crossed. You are signaling danger.
You're projecting hostility, so people subconsciously react to your hostility with their own defensiveness.
Precisely. Her computer was filtering reality to match her programming, and her physical output was creating a behavioral feedback loop of negativity. She was inputting defensive garbage, and the world was printing out hostile garbage.
So here is where I struggle with the practical application of rewriting this code.
Let's hear it.
Let's say I recognize my foundational code is garbage. I can't just stand in front of a mirror, look at my reflection and say, I'm a millionaire, everyone is obsessed with me, and my life is perfect, while my bank account is literally overdrawn, my rent is late, and I'm going through a terrible breakup.
No, you definitely can't.
I can't pay rent with a mantra. Expecting the subconscious computer to just instantly reboot because I told it a lie feels like the definition of toxic positivity. You can't just lie to the computer and expect a different printout, right?
That is a brilliant point, and it's where a lot of modern manifestation culture gets it wrong.
Thank you. Drives me crazy.
The author actually addresses this nuance carefully. Simply repeating hollow affirmations that your brain actively rejects as lies does not work. If you say, "I am rich," and your brain screams, "No, you aren't, you have $10, you are just creating massive internal conflict, not change.
Right, the bouncer kicks that thought right out.
Exactly. The text explains that the bridge between the old garbage code and the new reality isn't forced positivity or delusion. The bridge is willingness.
Willingness, just the openness to the idea.
Yes. The text specifically focuses on the phrase choosing to change. You don't need to know how to change right away. You don't need to force yourself to believe that everything is magically fixed.
That's a relief.
The simple, honest declaration, "I am willing to change," is the master command that signals the subconscious computer to open its ports to new inputs.
It's like putting the computer into safe mode so you can run an update.
Exactly. The text suggests that the universe, or your deep subconscious processing, begins to align resources and shifts your perception the very moment you offer that genuine willingness. It's not about forcing belief, it's about dropping your rigid resistance to a new way of living.
That is so much more accessible and forgiving. You don't have to leap across the Grand Canyon from "my life is a disaster" to "everything is perfect."
No, that leap is impossible.
You just have to take one small step from "my life is a disaster" to "I am willing to see this differently. I am willing to learn a new way."
I want you, listening right now, to apply this practically. Think about a stubborn area in your life, that one problem you feel like you've been hitting your head against a brick wall trying to solve for years.
We all have one.
Maybe it's a dynamic with a family member, or a chronic financial stress, or a habit you can't break. Instead of trying to force a fix, instead of criticizing yourself for not having it sorted out yet, what if you took a deep breath, stepped back, and simply said out loud, "I am willing to see this differently."
Just try it.
Notice what happens to the physical tension in your body when you just offer willingness instead of demands.
It's a massive pressure release valve. It takes all the heavy lifting and the guilt out of it. You're no longer the warden screaming at the prisoner to escape. You're just unlocking the door and opening it a crack to let some new air in.
It is the first vital, compassionate step in rewriting your foundational code.
We have covered some incredibly deep, challenging ground today.
You really have.
We've taken a journey through the architecture of human belief. To synthesize what we've discovered in this deep dive, the core message of Louise Hay's material is that we are not the helpless victims of an aggressive, random universe. We are the active programmers of our own reality. The universe, guided by our biological bouncers, is just the screen displaying our code.
We learned that we have to drop the exhausting blame on our parents, viewing them not as villains, but as terrified victims of victims, in order to take back our own pen and write our own story.
And we must put down the poison of resentment and forgive the past. Not as a favor to those who hurt us, but as a critical act of physical and mental self-preservation, lowering that toxic cortisol and protecting our own health.
Right. And practically, we stop inputting garbage into our subconscious by swapping those heavy, guilt-laden shoulds for empowering, choice-driven coulds.
We recognize that the past is nothing more than a neural pathway firing right now, which means we have the absolute power to change it right now. We stop painting over the cracked drywall of our lives, and we go straight down to the foundation, cultivating a radical, non-critical gentleness for ourselves, starting with the simple, quiet willingness to change.
It is a profound philosophical shift from outward blame to inward responsibility. And I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over as you go about your day.
Lay it on us.
Throughout this deep dive, we've talked about how beliefs act as the invisible architects of our lives. We've talked about the not good enough foundation. I want you to look at the one area of your life that feels the most stuck, the most immovable, the most frustrating right now.
Bring that exact area to mind.
Ask yourself, what is the underlying truth I believe about myself in this specific situation? And more importantly, what would happen to that immovable problem if you finally admitted that this truth was never a universal fact, but just an outdated line of code that someone else wrote for you a long, long time ago?
What happens when you tell your personal assistant that those old orders are finally canceled? Thanks for taking this deep dive with us. See you next time.